What's going on, everyone? Homer here, welcoming you all to the top 5 albums of the year. And just so you guys know, I'm more into the hardcore scene, like the metalcore, screaming and whatnot. If you're expecting to find Drake or Justin Bieber's album on here, you will have to look elsewhere. And before we get started with my top 5 albums of the year, I just want to list some honorable mentions, because 2015 was such a great year for music. And I think these albums deserve to be mentioned, even though they did not quite make the top 5. They were all in the consideration, and I'll try to run through them as quick as I can. First up, Devil Wears Prada's Space EP. Oh my god, I was so pumped, anticipated for this album. Now, if you would ask me if it's on par with the Zombie EP, I would have to say no, but it's still really great. It has some cool intergalactic breakdowns, and it's such a great year to come out because it's the same year as Star Wars, so space, they go together kinda. And I had the chance to see Prada twice this year. Once at Riot Fest, I was in the first crowd to see Planet A live, not to brag or anything, but the show that really impressed me about this Space EP is when I saw it live at their co-headliner on the Apollo X tour with Motionless in White. They played the Space EP from front to back, and it was one of the best shows I have ever seen, and the visuals they had playing during these songs were breathtaking. It was so great. Moon God live. Moon God's one of my favorite songs of the album. Alien, such a heavy, amazing song. And people say Mike can't scream anymore, and this EP, I think, shows them wrong. And I even like the 1818, their last album, but Space EP is great, and I hear that they're actually beginning to write a full length, so that's exciting news to hear. Definitely check out the Space EP if you have not yet. It's worth your time, and it gets you that intergalactic feels. And at the fear you feel at the end of Asteroid, it gets so intense. You just have to listen to it, trust me. You will not regret it. Another one of my honorable mention is Born of Osiris's Soul Sphere. It was such a heavy yet catchy album, and what a great follow-up to Tomorrow We Die Alive. And I know people hate on Tomorrow We Die Alive, but I honestly thought that was a great album. And this one, I'm not sure. I think I like it a little bit more because just such great tracks on this one. The Sleeping in the Dead, the ending when they're like, disassemble. sorry for my weak screams there, but the disassemble part at the end, it just gets me every time. That part's so intense. Songs like The Other Half Me with great relatable lyrics, kinda, yet having such a catchy yet heavy song, like I was saying earlier. And a song, the louder the sound, the more we all believe. That song lyrically is great, and just the way he screams at the end with the like lightning we strike, like thunder we breathe. It's great. And definitely worth your time checking out. Almost made my top 5, but like I was saying, such a great year of music, such great competition this year. Next up on the list, this one's a heavy one, folks. Chelsea Grin, Ashes to Ashes. Songs like Playing with Fire, Sell Out, Undying, such heavy masterpieces. Like, if you want to get your face melted, listen to this album. And I think it's their best effort to date. And track by track, it just keeps getting heavier and better. Not to disappoint. I really wish I got to see him live this year. Unfortunately, I did not. Hopefully next year. Actually, they just released a new single which goes in a more deathcore feel, which Chelsea's Grin, Ashes to Ashes, I feel like it was more of a kind of metalcore feel to it. But honestly, I think it's their best effort to date because I'm more into the metalcore scene and the guitar work, everything on this album, the screaming though. That's what always stood out to me about Chelsea Grin. They get so high yet so low at times. Such a great album. Next up, we got one that just came out earlier this month, Ice Nine Kills Every Trick in the Book. Now, I thought this was going to reach my top 5, but once again, competition. But this album is so great. They take, the concept of it's amazing too. They just take old stories and they create awesome songs. Like, for example, they did Dracula, which was a great song. Me, Myself, and Hyde, about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And they did one about The Exorcist, which is their heaviest and probably one of their best songs they've ever done. But my personal favorite album on every trick of the book is the Hell in the Hallways about Carrie. Carrie's a story I really like. I actually like the Chloe Moretz remake quite a bit, and this song was fantastic. It's really heavy at the beginning, catchy chorus, great. And like even books I didn't really know, like the first song on the album, The Nature of the Beast or whatever it's called. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the story it's based off, but I really like the song yet. Honestly, just because it talks about animals and stuff, I kind of picture Farmhouse for some reason. But that's neither here or there. So that's definitely an album to check out, especially if you're into old literature or horror stuff. I really want them to do like a deluxe edition or like EP based off like 80s horror thrillers, because they always have like t-shirts and stuff based off like Freddy, Jason and stuff. Excuse me. So I think it would be really cool for them to have a 80s thriller EP or 80s horror slasher EP. That would be amazing. And my final honorable mention of the year, and probably my favorite of all the ones I've listed so far, has to be Secrets, Everything That Got Us Here. It almost reached number 5. It was so close. It was a close race for this one. This is definitely the catchiest album of the year, and what a great follow-up. As some of you may know, recently they just lost their vocalist Aaron and replaced it with their new screamer Wade. And now, although Secrets, every album so far they've had a new screamer, they haven't had a screamer that's stuck yet. So people are kind of complaining that they changed their sound, but they greatly changed their sound from their first album, The Ascent, when they went into their second full-length album. And once again, in their third one, they changed their sound again, this time relying more on the clean vocals, which could be understandable. They keep losing screamers, and maybe, I have a theory, maybe this Wade, he can't hold a scream as long live. Like, he could scream really well, as you can see in the album. It gets really heavy. I'm not sure if he could go like a long period of time. Maybe he needs those breaks. Maybe he's newer to it. Because if you've ever tried to scream, it's a tough thing to do, especially if you want to get as low as he does, like in songs like Turn the Page and Half Alive. Such great songs, and like I was saying, catchiest album of the year by far. Songs like Learn to Love and Rise Up. Rise Up actually, I know it has like a cheesy chorus or not, but it hit me in the core because it's such an inspiring song to not give up on your dreams and stick it in there. So definitely, if you have not checked it out yet, check out Secrets, Everything That Got Us Here. Don't expect a lot of screaming, expect a catchy roller coaster of an album. They end it with such an amazing acoustic song, which I haven't been a fan of their acoustic stuff up to date, but this really stood out to me. Such a catchy yet sad song. But that'll do it for my honorable mentions. Went off on that a little longer than I was hoping. But now we're going to get to my top 5 albums of the year. And number 5, it released at the very beginning of the year. It is Peripheries, Juggernaut, Alpha, and Omega. And of course, this album is a modern metal masterpiece. The song Omega is a modern metal masterpiece. That song is the best thing they've ever written to date. It's a 12-hour... It's a 12 minute rather, not 12 hour. Damn, that'd be impressive. But a 12-minute amazing heavy song. I want to see it live so bad. I need to see that song live. And then like Alpha's the more lighter, catchier album. Periphery, I really love them since the early days, but this is a great follow-up to Periphery 2. I wonder if we're still going to get that Periphery 3. Only time will tell. But if you somehow have not checked out these and it's a dual album concept release. So if you're into concept albums, which is basically an album that tells a story, Alpha being part 1, Omega being part 2, 2 albums to check out if you're into metalcore. I know people who hated Periphery 2 for some reason, I don't know how, but love these. So if you haven't given Periphery a chance up to this date, definitely check out Alpha Omega. I want to see Omega the song live so bad. It is on my bucket list, believe me. Next up at number 4 is Bless the Fall's Left Behind. Personally, I think it's their best effort since Witness. I've been a big fan of them since their early days, ever since Craig Mambit, and they've been in my top 5 bands for the past like 4 or 5 years. And the guitar work on this album is definitely off the chain. I saw them at their headliner last month, and it was off the chain. They played songs like Against the Waves, which is an amazing song, both lyrically and musically. Walk on Water, which people say has like a Devil Wears Prada vibe. I really love that song, and lyrically that's very sad. People could probably relate, not me personally, but that's a sad song. And speaking of sad songs, Departures. That is yet again another sad song, but it's how they do it. They end their albums on a softer, sad note usually, and Departures is an amazing follow-up. Is it my favorite? No, probably still Meet Me at the Gates is, and I still need to see that song live. Speaking of songs I need to see live, Meet Me at the Gates is a song I've been waiting to see since like I was in high school, which puts on record how long I've been waiting since like the album was first released. That song is so beautiful. For Those Left Behind, the song is also another. It's so catchy too. This album, and I can't wait to see what they do next. And I can't wait. I'm actually seeing them live at another headliner next month, so I get a chance to see some more songs live. And right now, Bless Fall Left Behind sitting at my number 4 album of the year, which means you definitely need to go listen to it immediately. And now in my top 3, we have Fela Maya's Matriarch, which personally is an album I think elevated the band to a new level. I was sold before it came out just based on the artwork alone. The artwork and the theme of the album are amazing. And the new clean vocals is such a warm welcome, with the screams still remaining on point. The screams, the highs, the lows, they are through the roof on this album. This was on my number 1 of the year so far because it's funny. Early this year, my car was sidelined, so I had to deliver my mom's car, and I put Matriarch in the CD tray. CD tray gets jammed. So for the entire summer, I'm delivering with this one album we're playing on repeat. I'm working like 12-hour shifts, and this album's like a shorter album, short but very sweet. So I'm just listening to it repeat over and over and over. So actually one of the first songs I've learned all the lyrics by ear, rather than looking up any of the lyrics online or anything like that, which was actually pretty cool in my book. From start to finish, there's so many amazing tracks. I mean, Ellie, Lilu, Miska, and the lyrics in 350 are the most relatable lyrics of the year to me personally. It might not be my favorite album of the year, but the lyrics are just so good. Like in 350, are we chosen or is it us who choose? There are a million roads that lead to the same place. It just touched me in a way no other lyrics have this year. And come on, and Tellyloot, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the guitar work in that song, oh, you know what I'm talking about. That one part, oh, it gets me every time. And once again, Fela Maya is a band that eluded me live this year, and next year they are on my list. Sumerian actually teased the tour. Born of Osiris, Fela Maya, and After the Burial, that's it. The Midwest 3 are maybe having a tour this year, and that is one I will not miss. This Matriarch was on my number 1 for a good portion of this year, and I think you definitely need to check that out if you haven't. Sitting at number 2, we have Elysiana's Confession. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was late to the game on this album, because at first I wasn't too interested. In high school, I was a huge fan of The Emptiness. Like, I was going through a tough time, and the lyrics really helped me. And I really loved the concept of the album as a whole. And musically, it was good, of course. Then, A Place Where the Sun is Silent, I didn't care for. I like some of the songs, but it was iffy in my book. I don't really listen to it that often. Then I didn't really care for the Decade EP, so I thought, okay, the band was a one-hit wonder type deal for me personally. Then I finally listened to Confessions, and I am blown away. I think it even tops that of The Emptiness. And just so you guys know, it is the grand finale of the Annabelle trilogy, so it's a concept trilogy. Although I don't like the middle, the beginning and end are great, and I personally dig the end the most. And the band just switched to Rival Records, which is the lead singer's record label, which he said that he was able to have a lot more creativity on this album, and damn does it show. And it really taps into your inner insanity, whether you like it or not. Like, the song, Paradox. Not only does it drop major plot points, but at the end when Annabelle and Rusoka are talking simultaneously in both ears, like both earbuds, you hear Annabelle like saying the same lines. Annabelle is a bit more, you could hear the fear in her voice, and Rusoka's just talking in a cold, like, calculated manner, like she doesn't care, while Annabelle just sounds terrified. You hear the distress. And it's just such an amazing album. It has so many catchy tunes like The Goddess, The Dark Stormy Night, and I just love the references to the emptiness throughout the album. And the plays, like it was Dark and Stormy Night, the art, and they mentioned The Artist, which was great, which is a song from The Emptiness. But the cleans and the screams just come together and weave this awesome story, which now entails time travel for some reason, which I kind of don't understand. But it's in such a creative way that's also so appealing to the ears, both the screaming and the cleans. Like, I love both in this album from beginning to end. And my personal favorite song on this album is The Puppeteer. Not only does it have the catchiest chorus of the year, in my opinion, the lows in the album in the song are just so great. If you want to delve into like a modern day Edgar Allan Poe story in a metalcore fashion, check out this entire trilogy. You might have different opinions on the second album than me. It might be for you. Check out this trilogy, especially Confessions, the best of the three in my opinion, reaching the #2 album of the year. Finally, the main event of our evening, #1 album. And if you know me, this is no surprise at all. You probably saw this coming right when the video started. It is going to be August Burns Red, Found in Faraway Places. Now, let's just get this out in the open. My love for August Burns Red goes deeper than you can imagine. I've seen them live now 8 times, so close to 10. 2 of them being this year. Saw them at Warped Tour yet again, and I saw them at their headliner earlier in February. And I have so many amazing stories. I'll just share a couple with you right now. Like, the very first time I saw them at Warped Tour, it was my first Warped Tour ever. I think it was like 2010, 2011. I broke my wrist in their mosh pit, which ultimately leads me to be more skeptical of mosh pits. I'll go for August Burns Red and stuff. And Devil Wears Prada, I usually go as well. They usually get me every time. And I've met the band a couple times at Riot Fest. I think it was 2012, 2013, whenever they played. I was actually hit in the back of the head by Matt's drumstick. And then early this year at February, I was actually able to catch the drumstick this time instead of just having it hit my head and having someone else steal it. I was able to keep the drumstick, and I was very happy about that. But the reason this is my top album of the year, I wasn't trying to be biased. I really wasn't. It really earned its way to #1 in my opinion. I was sold by The Wake, the single. It was such an amazing single, so heavy, so dark, yet so true in my opinion, just because of what we had done to the earth and whatnot. And then we get the second single, Identity, which is an even better and more relatable, in my opinion, song. And I love that Warped Tour when they played Identity, the shark dance. It was so fun, like during the instrumental part. It's such a fun album, and it gets so heavy, like Separating the Seas, one of my favorite songs, and which some of our fellow metalcore fans like to call Jewcore, is incorporated in the song. But that aside, and Everlasting Ending is such a beautiful guitar work. JB is on point yet again. And we also, on this album, we get a What If song, I like to call it. Like, what if A Day to Remember's lead singer, Jeremy, was in August Burns Red? We get that with Ghosts, and I really like the results, honestly. It wasn't as good as straight up August Burns Red, but it was a nice fun song, and it appeals to a wider fan base, I believe. It's just the drum work, it just all comes together in this album to give you the album of the year, in my opinion. Well, that'll do it. Thank you all for listening. If you guys liked what you heard, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And if you like the reviews, I also have a side project called The Podcast, where we like to smoke down and talk movies, video games, comic books, get nerdy, get wild. And if this video gets enough love, maybe I'll do more album reviews in the future and get more in depth into an album. But you can bet your bottom dollar I'll do another top 5 albums next year. So many ones to be looking forward to. The one I have my eye on right now is The Word Alive, maybe coming out with a new album next year. So I can't wait for that. So thank you all for listening. And as always, stay lifted, my friends.